Good morning and welcome to my Legal Lioness channel, where I provide you with legal insights based on my 3 decades of experience as an attorney. Today we are revisiting the case of Monique and Spenser Tepe. They were murdered in their home. I will link my previous video on what happened there, and the ex-husband has been arrested. Now, one thing that a prosecutor might face as a challenge in this case, we don't know what all evidence they have, but one thing that doesn't really make sense to many people is this 10-year gap from when the ex-husband, when the ex-husband and Monique got divorced to when the murders happened. And so that one doesn't need to have a motive in murder cases, but the jury finds it helpful if you can bring forward a motive. And so what the defense will be arguing without a doubt is that, look, they've simply got the wrong person. All of those circumstantial evidence about, his travel history and all of that, maybe he was stalking her, but he certainly wasn't a murderer. And it's very difficult unless you can put a gun in his hand or have some kind of ballistics evidence or DNA or something like that. And so that could just be a way that the defense could weasel out, okay, he's innocent until proven guilty, but yeah, it seems like they have they believe they've got a fairly strong case. That doesn't mean that he actually did it. But anyway, just playing devil's advocate and looking at the legal analysis. So that would be one strategy, and if you've got one juror to have reasonable doubt, that could deadlock the whole thing. And particularly coming from the angle of, well, he's a successful vascular surgeon. He studied for 15 years to get to where he's got to. We wouldn't have any reason. The relationship was over for 10 years. But what has come to light now is this could help the prosecution. And this is the fact that the accused murderer, Dr. Michael McKee, he was the subject of a malpractice lawsuit. And in relation to this malpractice lawsuit, the address that his former employer gave to the lawyer on the other side of the malpractice lawsuit was a fake address. It did not exist. So presumably this would be the address that Dr. McKee gave, maybe a forwarding address when he left his employment, and it turned out to be fake. So I'm not saying that the former employer faked anything. More likely that he gave them an address that just absolutely didn't exist. It was a fake address. And so the lawyers on the other side of this malpractice lawsuit tried 9 different times in different ways to serve this malpractice lawsuit on him, and they absolutely just couldn't find him. And the lawyer on the other side said basically that Michael McKee had disappeared for months before the murder. The lawyer on the other side was in contact with another doctor who used to work with Dr. McKee, and this other doctor couldn't get hold of him either. He just said that this guy, Michael, had disappeared. And the doctor didn't know where he was, and he just had no idea. So this backdrop of having this malpractice lawsuit, it could be that his life was unraveling. He was facing legal drama. Perhaps he knew that he was going to be shamed by this malpractice lawsuit. Perhaps he knew that things weren't going to go well for him in the malpractice lawsuit. He might have been stripped of his license. So this really helps the prosecution set the scene. Now, rather than having this successful vascular surgeon who studied for 15 years to create this fantastic career for himself, you've got a man who is under mental stress. He's trying to avoid his responsibilities. He's given a fake address to his former employer, presumably to try and duck the service of this lawsuit. He wasn't answering telephone calls from the lawyer on the other side. And that's interesting to me because the news report, and this is from the New York Post, said that he wasn't answering telephone calls from the other lawyer. And that's interesting because the lawyer on the other side of the malpractice suit, you wouldn't expect them to be dealing directly with the doctor being sued. The doctor would usually have malpractice insurance, and the insurer would have a lawyer. So the two lawyers would speak to each other. So that makes me wonder, did he not actually even have malpractice insurance? And that's why the other lawyer on the other side was contacting him directly. In any event, it gives us a snapshot into his life and how it was unraveling. And when somebody is mentally, emotionally unstable, having something like that really rocks your foundation, and it probably rocked the foundation of his identity as this fantastic doctor, this esteemed doctor. And then people become desperate and they feel like they don't have anything to lose, and that's when old grudges percolate. And there was also, it wasn't a report, but there was a video recording of Monique Tepe, this is the lady who was murdered, of her marriage vows to her husband Spenser. That's the new husband. They've been married for about 5 years, so the marriage happened 5 years ago. But the video of her wedding is out there for all to see on social media. And one of the things that she said in her vows, which was very strange, was that she had cried rivers of tears and gone through some bad situations to find her new husband Spenser, who was unfortunately also murdered. And I think that is something that probably played on the actual murderer, if it indeed was Dr. Michael McKee. So he might have been re-watching the video of Monique getting married. She's beautiful, she's young, she's vibrant, and then she says these things, which is there's not much other way that you can take it as a real stab at the former relationships that she had, and obviously being a former husband, that would be a sort of a direct barb at him. Anyway, so you've got this mental, emotional unraveling, and the stress of potential lawsuit cannot be underestimated. That is extremely stressful. Financially can be ruinous, especially if you didn't have insurance. So this could be a clue as to the beginnings or furtherance of the unraveling of this man. And this could be information that not only explains on a human level sort of the evolution of what started the thought process, somebody who's desperate, who's got nothing to lose, who's felt slighted, and then he goes down this dark path. It's a very different scenario from an esteemed doctor who suddenly out of the blue goes and does this violent act. So this is going to be helpful to the prosecution. Not sure how the defense would handle that. They will, of course, claim that it's irrelevant to the actual crime, but it goes to his mindset. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I will keep you posted.